You know what I'm sad about? I actually had in my mind, I was like, oh, I need to grab a beer from the fridge before I go.
I have a few beers here if you would like one.
Guess you didn't. I feel like I'm sitting so much closer to the mic than you are.
Be-
Do you have an aversion to the microphone?
I feel like we're equidistant. We're making a nice little equilateral triangle. You can't use your your hands are floating. You're just
Mark's nose is actually like 2 or 3 inches shorter. Like it's in his face. It's actually inverted.
I've got a concave nose. I don't think that's the issue.
Actually, no, he's got a big honking German nose.
Thanks, Chad.
Yeah, you look like a hockey player, like Sean Bean's best friend.
We might have to watch this movie in another room because I can't get the audio to work.
Mark's telling me. First of all, I don't even know what we're watching today. Second
I've
of all,
already chosen.
Yeah, Mark. Okay, Mark has taken the choice away from me. I don't mind this. Actually, it's probably better than me knowing what I'm about to get involved with. But
I mean, I guess if we're going to talk about it at all beforehand, I need to give you the title.
Yeah, that's true. I guess
It's a John Carpenter movie.
Ooh. Have
So
we
you
talked
can start
about it before?
guessing.
It's not one that I own on Blu-ray, is it? That we can watch later. Dark Star. Or...
No.
Okay.
No.
I feel like we might have mentioned it before, but cool.
Yeah, it's not Dark Star.
Before we get into all that and what this movie is, are we gonna be able to watch it here?
We might have to go out to the other TV.
Apparently,
I don't know what the hell happened.
It was working before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, then, by God, we will make it work.
Once we hit stop on the recording.
How you been?
Good. You've been out for a while, and I've been out for a while because you've been out for a while.
And yet, technically, we'll still have recorded a podcast 31 weeks in a row because this is the last day of the week.
Okay.
I mean, in theory, this episode should have released last Tuesday, but
it's still...
Hey, we still recorded it this week at least.
It's a Friday. We could even do it tomorrow, and it would still be fine.
Yeah. Mark and I are currently... Well, at least I am. I don't know if your schedule's changed at all, but...
It's lightened a little bit this week.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why
I'm getting
got a little time.
Bent over the phone booth here.
I don't know what figure of speech that is.
That would be like
bent over
the phone booth. You never been bent over the phone booth?
No, those are really tall, so it's really hard to get bent over those.
Comcast does that to me every single time they send me a bill. They bend me over the phone booth. I mean, I don't know.
You're getting hosed pretty hard at work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boss man just asked me to work 7 days a week.
I kind of thought you already were.
And an additional 2 hours a day on top of that.
So you're doing like 7 13-hour days now?
12 hours.
Okay.
So we still stick to like a standard like 10. So I try and push that as far as I can go until it eventually collapses and falls apart and you end up having to do 6-7 days a week, which is just standard for our industry, it seems like, unfortunately. But that's how it is, I guess.
Sounds like you guys need a union.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they're paying you for the overtime, right?
Yeah.
That's all the union would do is ensure they're paying you overtime.
Yeah.
It would never say, no more overtime.
At least now we're no longer working for non-union people typically.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually get paid for our hours instead of which is nice for a change.
Slaving away, sweating in the eye of Phoebus.
Yeah. Which, I understand both sides of the coin, having made a movie for no money.
Right.
And like so many of the movies that we've watched on this show probably wouldn't have been made if people hadn't slaved over something for hardly any pay.
Yeah, I mean, as a filmmaker, you want to spend no money or as little as possible. But as everybody helping make the movie, everybody's got to eat.
Well, there's that's where you get that line between what is art and what is work.
Mm-hmm.
And at what point do you I guess it's easy now because you can literally just look at all the movies coming out in Hollywood and it's right now it's just comic book movie central.
Right.
Which is work central.
Franchise in general,
just because they're more of a, even if it's not going to make a ton of money, it's still going to make a good amount of money.
Yeah, I think even a movie like Gods of Egypt or something, a complete bomb that cost way too much money, even if it only cost $20 million, that's $20 million down the toilet. I'm sure after, global box office and DVD sales, they've made, say, $20 million or whatever it costs to make that movie. Nobody really loses money on movies. I think everything comes out a wash, at least in the end. It's like printing money.
Well, I remember we talked about that the Fox. I remember hearing the Fox Home Video people saying that the DVD sales back in the, early 2000s was basically like printing cash.
Yeah,
what you just said. They said that verbatim. They said it's like printed cash because it was something that didn't exist before and doesn't really exist now either. So they feel like, oh God, we're losing so much money. The film industry is collapsing. Well, guess what? You don't even have this part of your industry, really in the VHS days. Not many. I mean, a lot of people bought VHS tapes, but they didn't buy it as prevalent as DVDs.
Yeah. Because it was never going to be the same as in the theater. But DVDs was kind of like, ooh, we're getting close enough now.
Yeah.
I should restate that, though. DVD sales these days are not very good, but I'm talking about like VOD, rentals, all that shit.
Right.
That's what I'm calling
There's a lot,
DVDs.
and that's like you're not even printing cash at that point. Cash is just appearing in your checking account.
It's just a number on a computer somewhere.
Yeah, it's a number on a computer, and it came out of nowhere, basically. All right, should we do this? What are we watching?
Give me a drum roll. This is like the longest reveal we've ever had. It's John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness.
Ding!
Boom, boom. That's not a joke, guys.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
That's why I chose it. Because no one's ever seen it. It's a really bizarre movie.
It's one of those... I feel like I might have seen 2 minutes of it when you were watching it one day, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, it's interesting because it's not very widely known, like outside of horror circles. Horror, not horror.
Horror.
It's part of Carpenter's Apocalypse trilogy, which started with The Thing.
Okay.
Part 2 was Prince of Darkness.
Okay.
And Part 3 was In the Mouth of Madness.
Interesting. Why would people put those three together?
People don't. He does.
He does.
Like, he made those 3 films with sort of the same, aesthetic in mind, apparently.
Wow. So it's an aesthetic trilogy. It's not...
Obviously, they're not connected story-wise. No,
Prince of Darkness has nothing to do with The Thing. Unless that's what The Thing eventually became.
That would be funny.
That's how I'm going to watch this movie.
We need to go through and re-edit those 3 movies to make them make sense together.
One movie? Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, let's figure out our technical difficulties here and watch Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
Anyone in close proximity has the same dream.
What is it?
A secret that can no longer be kept. It started a month ago.
What started?
A change in the earth and the sky. His power.
There's a weird locking mechanism. Looks like it can only be opened from the inside.
A life form is growing out of prebiotic fluid. It's not winding down into disorder. It's self-organizing. It's becoming something. What?
forgot how to hit record.
I almost forgot how to tell you you're stupid.
Real original, Mark.
I'm just trying to do a thing. I was trying to play off of your words.
Yeah?
So we just watched Prince of Darkness.
Yes.
A very strange movie. What did you think? Knowing that it is supposed to be, I mean, not that it was advertised this way, but it's sort of his companion piece to The Thing and In the Mouth of Madness.
It makes me sad, to be honest. Like, the movie, like, it's the kind of thing it's like we're aware now that John Carpenter's movies like were greatly underappreciated.
Yeah.
At the time.
I don't know if any of them were huge hits besides Halloween.
What was it? What was it? There was some article or something, some interview with John Carpenter recently, and somebody asked him, or somebody said, The Thing is like one of the greatest horror films of all time, or something. And he said, "That's great.
Doesn't pay my bills.
It doesn't pay my bills. It didn't do. Yeah, where were you like 30 years ago?" Or something is what he said.
Yeah, he was pretty like.
It seemed like that movie like destroyed him or some reason.
Well, The Thing was like a major flop at the time. It opened up against E.T. For fuck's sake, the friendly alien, and they had the horror movie Alien. So like nobody was watching The Thing.
You know what's amazing is that The Thing. I mean, obviously, it hasn't surpassed E.T. over time because E.T. is still selling.
Yeah.
But The Thing...
Everybody knows if you're making an E.T. reference, E.T. Phone Home, Reese's Pieces, whatever.
Right.
The Thing... a smaller subset of people.
Smaller subset, but it's
still a major movie.
It's a pretty major subset of people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's had
in my top 3.
Countless releases... on Blu-ray, you've got a remake. Well, actually, a prequel.
Yeah,
of the same title
/ remake.
So, yeah, it's basically the same story, but it is
but from another point of view.
The prequel.
Yeah,
and they set that up. Where you don't know how that ended either. Like they were going to make another movie out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they could have had a franchise on their hands, but I don't think.
You don't think it did well enough?
It captured people's attention.
I thought it was all right.
That well.
Did we see it together?
No, I saw it at home here, or last apartment, but it was just okay. It was okay. Yeah. It was like top of the bell curve. It was fine.
Well, they made the mistake of adding CGI into the mix.
Yeah. Like they actually had all those monsters for real on set, looking good already, and then they were like, "Nope, not enough. We need to add some." Me. Yeah, I mean, all those things were just like accentuated with CG.
Yeah.
I just didn't like the structure of the prequel because they had to do the Hollywood thing, and go like, okay, let's really raise the stakes. She's got to enter the spacecraft at the end. No, she doesn't. Isn't it enough that they found a giant UFO? Do they have to like have an adventure inside of it?
Right.
They've got monsters in the base. They can do anything's available to them, and they were like,
I mean,
nope.
That's a whole other movie. We can talk about that another time.
Okay. Not even a John Carpenter movie.
But like you said, what do I think of this movie? I think it's obviously flawed, but it's a perfect gem of a movie of its time.
Yeah, it definitely is of its place and time.
Because it makes me sad to know that these kind of movies, you can't even make something like this now.
I mean...
Yeah, I mean, you can't... I mean, you can make it, but I mean, you can't make it in the same style.
Mm-hmm.
Like, stylistically, it's very hard to replicate what you had in the 80s. Shooting on film stocks, those kind of lenses.
All physical effects, no CG involved.
Yeah, I mean, you can't chemically reproduce the kind of chemicals they had because...
You talking about acid?
Well, no, I'm talking about... like the photochemicals.
Yeah, I know what
everything changes over time, and so you can't even really recreate the look unless you go back and you actually had the ability to create the same photochemicals.
Yeah, you can try.
Process the film the same. edit on a flatbed and, you're cutting audio with your mag tape and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But
so it's not so much you like
It
the
was
movie,
more
you
a
like for what it
sentimental-
is.
yeah, it was more a sentimental journey for me than it was it was an enjoyable movie. I don't think the plot made much sense.
No.
It
They don't give you much to work with. It's apparently Satan. No, the son of Satan, I think,
yeah.
is a jar of green goo in the basement of a church in downtown Los Angeles somewhere, or on the Miracle Mile maybe.
Yeah.
And
Makes sense.
they get a team of scientists together to find out what the hell it is exactly. I think the priest's motivation was something like, no, we have to prove with science and facts that the devil is real, so everybody will pay attention and renounce him or some shit like that. I have no idea.
I mean, unfortunately, I think we were distracted at the beginning, just like commenting, like we were like a live commentary track while we were watching the beginning.
Yeah, but
However,
I still
it
think I
didn't
got enough.
strike me as something that was like there wasn't enough plot pieces there to be like clearly say like why. I got the feeling like their teacher, it was this class of kids
They're all like
that
35.
all look like their late 30s, like, and their teacher says, "Hey, I've got this project. Let's go to a church and let's see if we can solve what the problem is."
You'll get some extra credit.
Yeah, but if that happened in reality, you just get a bunch of people who didn't give a fuck. But all these people like treated their class as if it was like their profession.
Well, I wonder
Like,
if they were in
it was like a master's
PhD,
program.
a PhD program. Like they all knew what the fuck they were talking about already.
It would have had to have been, right?
Yeah, and that's why they were so old, because,
I guess
they've already
it's the
gotten
case,
their
yeah.
bachelor's and masters.
But that's not something they obviously talk about and communicate. But
No.
even still, like, I mean, if this sort of thing actually happened in reality, these guys would all have been fucked.
Oh yeah.
Like, really, they spoiler, they end up, quote unquote winning, I guess.
Sort of. It's sort of like
They
we're
smash
not
a
sure.
mirror at the right time.
Yeah, but
They
the
trap
last
the sun in with the
devil.
In with the devil.
But that last dream sequence, the last broadcast or whatever, is
Mm-hmm.
different. It's no longer like this crazy vampire looking thing wearing a cloak. It's the woman who pushed in
Yeah.
the bad guy. So the question is she now the Prince of Darkness?
One of them.
And she's still going to be coming
One
back in
of us.
1999?
One of us. Yeah, there's a lot of
Because
like,
there's this apocalyptic feeling, just like the thing, where you're not sure if everybody's fucked or not.
and that's I actually think I appreciate the fact that it doesn't explain everything, because there's a lot of awesome imagery in the movie that holds up really well. Like the shot of her once she's dove through the glass.
Oh, and it's
she's
like
trapped
it's
in there
broken,
forever.
and she's reaching back, and it's this
She's
strobing
reaching
kind
back,
of light.
yeah.
Yeah.
But she's floating in the water, and it's
Sideways.
just like sideways. So he's playing. He's always playing around with how the framing's upside down. Like there's a pool on the ceiling.
Yeah, or it's running backwards or something.
Water's dripping the wrong way, or worms are falling the wrong way up a window. He's basically doing like old school James Cameron tricks.
Yeah, I mean, it's very primitive stuff.
Yeah. This is all the stuff you'd learn on a Corman film set, but
Right. Or in film
I feel
school.
like it just isn't around these days. I don't understand why. It's not like
Well, I think audiences today are, I hate to say smart enough, but they're perceptive enough to go like, what the fuck? That's cheap as shit. They're just running it backwards. People expect something like that to be made to be made more realistic through the use of CG
yeah.
or more expensive,
Was it okay?
tricks.
I guess is that the beauty of John Carpenter then, because he's a master of making people kind of let their senses relax, because his movies are so campy.
You're not sure if you should be laughing or scared.
Right. And
He does catch you off guard with a lot of the jumps
Yeah, and he's very visually. He's obviously very visual in the sense like he can. It's funny to me that he's now considered kind of a master of his craft because I'm sure at the time
B-movie director.
B-movie director,
Like,
which
he only
in
has
Hollywood back then was like the curse of the devil, like, you know.
Yeah, like I think the only reason he had a career at all was because of Halloween, which was such a smash. It came out with like 10 sequels eventually. But everything since then has always felt like Hollywood going, okay, Johnny, we'll give you one more chance.
Right.
And then he's barely made enough to keep going.
Had you seen The Host? Or was it called The Host? No, the Ward.
The Ward, I have seen The Ward.
And that was his last one.
That's his last feature. I can't remember her name.
Starring
Mrs. Johnny Depp, is that who?
Not anymore.
Well, you know, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I can't think of it.
Can't think of it. Doesn't matter. And that came out in, I think, Amber Heard, 2008.
Yeah.
So it's been almost 10 years since he's had a feature
Wow,
released.
was it really 2008?
I believe so. Maybe 2010. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Around there. It's been a while. I don't know if he's just kind of doing interview circuits now, talking about the old stuff and getting paid per interview.
Yeah.
Or if he's got stuff he wants to make and he can't find the financing or what. He's made a whole lot of stinkers.
Yeah.
Ghosts of Mars, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. It's hard to believe that was the same director as The Thing.
Yeah. He's definitely fallen off the branch, but I feel like most directors have, at some point, they just kind of burn out, and he strikes me as a total burnout.
Well, we were saying this earlier. He was born in 1948, so he's 69 years old now.
Right.
He looks like he should have died 15 years ago.
Well, you think about the kind of film shoots he was probably doing. He was probably doing insane film shoots to get all these things made.
And insane
you treat
amounts
your body
of coke,
like
maybe.
shit.
I know he's a big smoker.
He's a huge smoker, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, his
so-
commentary tracks with Kurt Russell are amazing.
Yeah, those are always a hoot.
A hoot. a hoot?
A hoot. The one for The Thing, actually, those guys are cracking up through the whole thing. Because they're just like, oh my god, he just split in half. Can you believe that one?
I feel like I listened to that one. Maybe I'll listen to a different one. But
I think the Big Trouble in Little China one is good, too.
I mean, it depresses me because he really is like, he should be more recognized as a whole for effectively like making some of the weirdest movies that have ever been made that are all very original.
In the Mouth of Madness is a truly bizarre movie. You can't tell up from down in that movie.
That, and I've seen it once. I think I watched it with you. And I don't really remember much besides the fact that it was like a very short movie, wasn't it?
I don't know.
And Sam
one.
Neill was awesome as always.
Yeah.
We should watch that one again sometime. Plus we've got Dark Star, which we haven't.
Let's just do every John Carpenter movie. Let's get him on the podcast. I can scrape together a few $100s.
Get him in here.
Get him in here.
So that he can sit here and go, where were you people 30 years ago?
Well, I was 5 30 years ago.
It's just depressing. I don't know. I mean, it bums me out because I wish he was still making movies. It bums me out that I want my favorite filmmakers to be making movies constantly up until the day they die.
They don't work for you, Chad.
I want it.
Just you're one of those people who wanted Scott Weiland to keep doing drugs. To keep making
Hey, if the music comes out good, it killed him anyway.
Right.
Might still be alive.
I don't think... Like, John Carpenter is a master of his time, of like the late 70s, mid 80s. Mm-hmm. But it's no longer that time. As he has continued on, he started making movies like Village of the Damned, Escape from L.A., a not good remake sequel of Escape from New York.
See it.
Bruce Campbell is in it.
That does not surprise me.
He plays the Surgeon General of L.A.
Of course he does.
Which is all about plastic surgery. It's the whole...
It's perfect for him.
Yeah. He just started making a whole bunch of bad movies, and I think maybe what an audience wanted out of movies, like as that evolved, he did not change. He's still making the same kind of movies,
Right.
but there's enough other forces at play, like producers, like audience,
Like, you want to do that?
like audience
No?
screenings, even like some kind of feedback that's saying, no, we don't want that anymore. We want something newer and fresher.
Right.
And he either won't or can't deliver that.
I mean,
So he's sort of
audience,
like he's stuck in a glass box. He is what he is, and he can't do stuff anymore.
I get the feeling that he ended up like, like Orson Welles, like felt like he was so rejected, because when you hear him talk, that's what he sounds like. Somebody who's just burned out and it's not fun anymore.
Just recording commercials for frozen peas.
Right.
Rosebud green peas filled with delicious green penis.
Like listening to some of Orson Welles' like final interviews is just depressing. He's just talking about how Hollywood's just like this soul sucking place, and it was just.
And that's amazing because he was, until he died, one of the most famous Hollywood people. Maybe he wasn't directing movies anymore.
But he was also known as somebody who kind of went off the deep end too, and his movies were notorious failures.
Yeah.
Even until they were recognized at some point, like Citizen Kane.
Yeah. Well, Citizen Kane, didn't that get nominated for Oscars and shit? I don't think it won, did it?
That I don't know.
Like Citizen Kane was recognized
the only
as
thing I know
a
about
game
it was
changer.
that it was a game changer to like 5 people, and the rest of the people were like, "What? Why?
Yeah, what the shit is this?
What is this nonsense?" But to like people who are auteurs and film directors and eventually film historians were like, that movie.
Yeah.
Like, people went in there and just like blew them away, kind of like in the same way that 2001 blew people away as far as what science fiction could be, even if they didn't like 2001 or people didn't understand it at the time.
Yeah, it seems like everything else after that point. He was in some mainstream movies as an actor, and I think, what is that one? The Third Man, not the Fifth Man.
Yeah.
The Third Man. I don't know how big a hit that was. That came out in like the 40s, but I think it was well received. Though he did not direct it, he just had that famously small role at the end, but he still owned the whole movie.
Yeah. Right.
But like the Magnificent Ambersons, that was like not even released on video at any point. I don't think. Touch of Evil, just like you were saying, it took years for people to find that one again.
Right. And there was and they didn't until like the late 90s they didn't go back to the version he wanted of Touch of Evil, where there weren't credits thrown up over his famous shot at the beginning of the movie, that
the tracking shot,
the long tracking shot that when we finally watched The Player, which I know you haven't seen, it begins with they do the same exact shot and they're talking about the shot
of course,
while they're doing it. But
I do miss John Carpenter. I'm not that surprised that he isn't directing as much anymore. I've seen a couple of TV episodes. He did an episode of this series Masters of Horror back in like 2006 or something.
Sounds like something he would do.
And it was a series where they had like a big famous horror director do each episode. They got John Landis for one. They got him. They got I can't remember the other ones. I don't think they got Wes Craven or anything like that. But his was kind of one of the worst episodes. It's an interesting idea, but he was maybe in that case trying too hard to like give people what they wanted, and it came out just kind of blah.
Yeah.
But in other cases, like Ghosts of Mars, you can tell that's a John Carpenter movie. It's basically a remake of Assault on Precinct 13,
right?
But on Mars with aliens. And it doesn't work. It feels totally out of its time. The movie just does not belong in the year 2000 or whenever it came out.
Well, do you think that's just a case of a director who has to be of that era? I mean, obviously his style choices and everything will work in this older form with no CGI or anything like that. Like,
I don't know what to...
Is this a case of a director who, when they're having fun and they're not thinking through things too much?
You think his brain is getting in the way?
I think his brain might be just getting in the way, and he's trying to make it too clean.
That could be.
You know, when you get away from it and you stop going with your gut instincts, which is probably what he's good at.
Yeah.
His instincts. If you probably gave him a camera and you gave him a general outline and like a bare bones script and just said go do it, he'd probably come back with something that looks like his best films. But if you give him something that's too polished and you give him all the stuff in the world, like George Lucas going back and doing the prequels, like you give somebody too much and suddenly they don't know.
And then give him a couple of young studio heads to be like, no, this is no good.
Right. And
to argue with
they
and
get in his head and he's like, well, maybe they're right. And so they try that. And then, of course, that's not going to work.
I guess from reading the few interviews of his that I have, it doesn't seem like he would be the kind of person to be like, oh, gee whiz, I'll try harder. Right. He'd be like, go fuck yourself. This is what I do.
Yeah, you're probably,
like, that's
probably
it. Right. I wonder how much the most recent movies have just been kind of taken out of his hands at some point, and he never bothered to make a big deal out of it or sue. He got paid, and that's all.
Yeah. Well, how many directors are there that are still doing well in their old age? Like
Spielberg is in his 70s, right?
What's the last good movie he made?
I mean, shit. I don't even remember the last movie he made.
Was it the
Tintin?
one with the giant?
Oh, the BFG.
Oh God, he's made a lot since Tintin. I mean, he made
never
the one
saw
with Tom
War Horse.
Hanks. The
Bridge of Spies was great.
Bridge of Spies was all right. It was all right.
I liked it a lot.
But I mean, it's not as strong as his most impactful stuff. And obviously, the magic of his '80s films is gone entirely.
His last huge fucking movie was Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, Altman was making films until the day he died, and his last movie, in my opinion, is one of his best. We talked about that, Prairie Home.
Prairie Home Companion.
As far as what I can put up with.
Altman can be a tough one to swallow.
But there's a lot of directors just kind of eventually dwindle off and seemingly make it seems like nothing for so long. Like Aronofsky's
What, he did the Noah movie last?
Noah, I guess. He's got another one
Black
coming
Swan.
out this year called Sister, which I haven't, or Mother.
Oh.
I haven't seen anything on that, even though I've seen a poster for it.
Wouldn't it have been great to see a RoboCop or a Wolverine movie by Aronofsky? Because he was in line for both of those.
Both of them, yeah.
And then he
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm curious what would happen.
Curious too, but I think after seeing Noah, it's like, and actually I love Aronofsky, and I still think Black Swan is a perfect movie. The rest of his stuff, occasionally is kind of hit or miss for me, or I'm watching it and I feel like I should like this more. I don't think I saw Requiem for a Dream when it came out, and I wanted to love it so much, but I just felt like it was a little empty for me because I wasn't a drug user, and although I went to the movie with my friend Jake, who was he had some problems. And he saw it, and the movie devastated him. He was like, "Oh God!"
I felt pretty devastated by it. I've never done any drugs.
It just says something about me that it didn't affect me at all.
It devastated me enough that I will never watch it again. I don't need to.
I saw it at ArcLight last year, and it was so much better seeing it. When I saw that really depressed me because I was like, "Fuck, man!" It felt like filmmakers were still trying to say something new. And maybe that's the problem, is that movies now, it's so rare that you get something that feels fresh and new. Even when we were talking about, Byron and I saw It Follows the other day, and we're talking about that, even that, it's sad to say that feels fresh now because it's totally derivative of everything like Carpenter did. And, especially this has some pretty hardcore It Follows vibes in it, even though it's not the same story.
Right.
But
the blank-faced, possessed people stalking others through the halls of this church.
It seems like there are movies out there that are extremely original, but no one ever hears of those movies. What was the one that I want to watch it someday? You and I have seen. I know we saw the trailer for it, and it was like Cosmos Panatos or somebody directed it.
Oh,
like
the are you talking about
his name
Black
Cosmos?
Rainbow or whatever?
Yeah, once beyond the Black Rainbow.
Beyond the
Black Rainbow.
Yeah, Beyond Black Rainbow.
There's movies like that.
He's making a new movie with Nicolas Cage, by the way.
Oh, fucking.
It's gonna be the most batshit thing you've ever
my-
seen. I'm
Are you
sure of
kidding
it.
me? Is this his second movie or something?
It's his second movie, and he got Nick Cage on board. I cannot wait.
I mean, visually that movie was stunning.
I needed you to explain the plot to me
Well,
after I had
neither
seen
one
it
of us
twice.
Got it. We saw it. We're
No,
just
you
like,
got it. I was asking
I?
you questions like, now who is this guy, and what's his beef with her?
Mark's actually lying. I have no fucking idea what happened in the movie. We need to watch that one again though. And I remember seeing the trailer for that and being like, "This looks like one of the best movies I've ever seen."
It
And-
definitely has its own style. For sure.
And
I mean, it borrows from the 70s and 80s, but it doesn't.
Sure.
It borrows a little from Kubrick,
well, it's funny.
but it's
now,
like
yeah.
Kubrick on PCP.
Well, now that I'm thinking of it, like in the same way that Stranger Things kind of felt like it follows, it follows in all these other movies. It also feels like Beyond the Black Rainbow because they kind of had that synthy, crunchy sound to it. You know, the music. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just it. Maybe it's because we have such a lack of. Maybe it's just a lack of people taking risks, to be honest.
I feel like,
People are just falling into the tropes and the genres and
I mean, it could
not
be.
really expanding upon the...
I still feel like more people are making movies now than ever before,
Right.
because any asshole with an iPhone can do it.
Right. But then no one's making original films.
They gotta be out
Everything's shot perfectly. You know, Byron was definitely going on about that. Everything has to be pristine. It has to be perfect. Audience is so hyper aware of everything now that I guess it really does take someone to come along and kind of like make fun of that, or make fun of the fact that the movie is flawed, and be self-aware.
Like if you popped Prince of Darkness into a theater today, and just got people to watch it, ooh, sounds pretty spooky, Prince of Darkness. I think people would walk out, not because it's too gory,
Probably.
just because it's too. Again, I come back to this word, primitive. People don't feel like there's enough going on here. It's just a bunch of dumb camera tricks. Who wants to see that? They'd rather see Transformers 7.
Ugh. God. This depressing note, should we wrap this one up so
I
we can
suppose
save
so.
some? We'll save some more for another John Carpenter movie in the near future.
It just becomes a question of that art versus commerce thing. People need to make money with their movies, or else no one gets to make movies.
Right.
That being said,
The Thing has made probably a fuck ton of money just because it's lived. This entire
well,
time.
through licensing, I hope somebody's making money.
Well, somebody's making money. I doubt it's John Carpenter.
It's not John Carpenter.
And I doubt it's probably not even Kurt Russell, to be honest.
No.
Now I'm just depressed. I wanna go home.
Let's just wrap it up and go
So-
to bed and cry
sorry,
ourselves
audience.
to sleep.
Mark and I are going to go home and cry now.
I'm going to try and get in touch with John Carpenter. Hey, does anybody out there know somebody who knows John Carpenter?
Yeah,
'Cause
Lance, do you know John Carpenter?
I would like to... Oh, that's the one person.
He's the only one listening.
Lance.
Poor Lance.
We need to talk to this man.
Yes,
John, not Lance.
John. Maybe I'll dig up at work and see what we can find.
I wish I knew somebody at an agency or something who could find him.
Yeah.
I wish he had an 800 number like Bill Murray.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'm going to go off on a tangent for a split second because we had talked about directors getting old
Oh,
and like losing their shit. But
yeah.
Verhoeven was somebody we talked about
Yes.
who seems to have found a different niche entirely and is doing well at that.
What's his niche now? I know Black Book.
Foreign drama films. I mean,
He's still doing. Oh, he did the that other one?
I can't even think of the name of it now. But he got
The L?
L.
L.
He got her a nomination. Well, she got herself a nomination, but
Yeah, come on.
He made the role.
Give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
I
Anyway,
guess that is his niche.
so
Foreign dramas.
there's one director out there who's old and still making interesting content.
I haven't
Even
seen.
though he's well departed from his original films.
Yeah, Woody Allen. I haven't seen his new stuff, but he's still getting nominated actors and like best screenplay nominations and stuff, isn't he?
Yeah. The Midnight movie, the
Midnight
one
in Paris.
that was great.
Yeah.
Match Point was amazing.
That was like
Time
12 years ago now.
Yeah. That was like his resurgence.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Okay. We really need to stop now.
Yeah.
God damn it.
God, I'm just still depressed.